Tua turned the ball over has officially been benched, so our guy Microphone has obviously made a video on it. Thought it would be cool to do it. I am going to have a video on the main channel. We just recorded it in stream. But we're going to start it right in the Mike McDaniel era and check it out. So y'all make sure y'all give Microphone his due process, due receipts. This is right after the part where Brian Flores said he's terrible at football. But let's hear it.
That's where Mike McDaniel came in. Now this is where the story gets good. When the Dolphins hired Mike McDaniel in February of 2022, the first thing people wanted to know was, what is he gonna do with Tua? And Mike McDaniel's answer from day one was crystal clear. He believed in Tua. The story of their first interaction is legendary at this point. McDaniel called Tua right after getting the job, and Tua happened to be on a golf course. And instead of telling him to come in immediately, McDaniel just said, nah dude, go enjoy, don't think about anything else, go golf. Tua later said that moment was the first time he felt like he didn't have to act a certain way around a head coach. That's when he knew things were going to be different. But Mike McDaniel didn't stop there. Once they finally got together in the same building that offseason, McDaniel did something that nobody expected. He sat Tua down and showed him a highlight tape. Not just any highlight tape, a 700 play highlight tape that McDaniel personally put together of Tua's best moments as a passer. 700 plays! Think about the time and effort that takes. McDaniel later explained why he did it. He said, getting beat up and having your existence being completely tainted by people saying you are X, Y, or Z, I felt like he was put behind the 8 ball. Basically, his strengths he couldn't play to. McDaniel knew the damage had been done, and his job was to rebuild this kid from the ground up. According to CBS, Tua would reportedly look himself in the mirror and ask himself, do I suck? He genuinely didn't know if he belonged in the NFL because he was so beaten down by the fans and his own coaches.
Yo, I know, we're kind of dunking on Tua these days, but this was a very important thing for him, right? Like, at least having the years where you had a quarterback that believed in him, and who knows? And I know Brian Flores, he's a footballer's football. Like, he's that classic level of guy. Tua, dealing with so many different things and being from where he's from, it's a very interesting process of him having to try to adjust to what's going on here. And you would think, somebody coming from a Nick Saban offense would be ready for that hard type of coaching, but maybe it's too much. Maybe it just at some point. And then you remember when he got his start, because our guy Ryan Fitzpatrick was going crazy and he was kind of forced into it, so it kind of felt like even the locker room wasn't behind it. So there were so many people that were put against him without even him trying to do it. So it's kind of crazy to see how positive Mike McDaniels was, just from a mental aspect, probably for Tua, just to feel that way, and how things have changed, man.
That 700 play tape was McDaniel's way of showing Tua, bro, you're good. Here's the proof. I believe in you. And over time, Tua started believing in himself too. And man, did it work. The transformation was almost immediate. In Tua's first season, 2022, Tua went from a broken shell of a quarterback to an MVP candidate. The Dolphins tied a franchise record by scoring 30+ points in 4 consecutive games. Tua was throwing dimes, his timing was perfect, and more importantly, you could see his personality coming out on the sidelines. McDaniel had built an entire offense around what Tua did best, which was throw with accuracy and anticipation. They brought in Tyreek Hill to pair with Jalen Waddle, and suddenly Miami had one of the most explosive passing attacks in the NFL. There was a moment captured on Inside the NFL where McDaniel was teasing Tua on the sideline during a blowout win. He told Tua he had watched his high school highlights and said,
"And bro, your technique was trash."
And Tua just laughed. That's the kind of relationship that they had built. McDaniel could clown him because Tua knew it came from a place of love and respect. Let me give you the numbers real quick. In 2022, Tua finished with 2,564 yards, 19 touchdowns, and just 3 interceptions in the games he played. The Dolphins made the playoffs for the first time since 2016. Then, 2023 was even better. Tua led the entire NFL with 4,624 passing yards. Let me say that again. He led the entire league. He was an MVP candidate. He threw 29 touchdowns, made his first Pro Bowl, and the Dolphins won 11 games, making the playoffs for the second straight year. This wasn't an accident. McDaniel's system was perfect for Tua. The quick throws, the motion, the misdirection, it all played to his strengths. And McDaniel defended him at every turn. When critics said that Tua was just a system QB, McDaniel said this.
My answer to that would be, who the F cares? I've coached stuff a long time. I haven't seen people do what our guys do.
That's your head coach going to war for you on national television. When Tua signed his massive 4-year, $212 million extension in the summer of 2024, he specifically credited Mike McDaniel for believing in him when nobody else did. So what happened? How do we go from an MVP candidate in the playoffs to this?
We're in the process of game planning for the Cincinnati Bengals. In that process, we're trying to determine who will give us the best chance to win.
The 2025 season has been an absolute nightmare for the Miami Dolphins. They started the year getting blown out 33-8 by the Colts. Then they lost to the Patriots at home. The Panthers, the Chargers, the Browns destroyed them. At one point they were 2-7, the lowest point since 2021. And Tua, the guy who led the league in passing just 2 years ago, he's having the worst season of his career by far. His passer rating dropped from over 100 in each of McDaniel's first 3 seasons down to 86.4 this year. He's thrown 18 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. At one point, he was leading the entire NFL in turnovers with 14 combined interceptions and fumbles lost. The confidence that McDaniel spent years building back up, it looks completely gone again. Tua's not pushing the ball downfield. He's hesitating on throws. He's making mistakes at the worst possible times. 2 of the Dolphins' early losses came directly from late game Tua interceptions. That's the kind of stuff that changes the entire momentum of a season. Now, the defense has been terrible too. At one point, they ranked 30th in yards allowed per play. But here's the thing, when you're paying your quarterback $53 million a year, he's supposed to overcome those problems. He's supposed to elevate everyone around him. And Tua just hasn't been able to do that. But here's where things got really ugly between Mike McDaniel and Tua. So after the Dolphins lost to the Chargers 29-27 in week 6, dropping them down to 1-5, Tua went to the podium and did something you almost never see a franchise quarterback do. He called out his own teammates.
We have guys showing up to player-only meetings late, guys not showing up to player-only meetings.
Now, on one hand, you might be thinking,
and this is when I think a lot of people started to kind of point that out because, it's probably frustrating to have somebody not show up to the meeting or show up on time. And this kind of goes back to the whole, who is Tua, the type of person he is. And I don't think he's a leader's leader, right? He's just not an alpha because most people would say, well, that's on you to get the people to show up. Or if people are disrespecting the players meeting so much that they're not showing up on time, right? Then again, that's on you. That's on y'all as veterans or leaders in the locker room. So that was definitely a huge red flag for the locker room was definitely lost before Mike McDaniels was.
But Mike, Tua's just trying to hold people accountable. He's just trying to be a leader.
But that is not how you do it, bro. That is not how any successful quarterback in NFL history has ever done it. And Tua started getting torched.
He only talks about what other players do. He never says me. He talked about it starting with leadership and then said all the things that the people aren't doing correctly. Well, what aren't you doing? It all starts with the head. It all starts with the guy that calls the shots.
And here's the key moment, the moment where you could tell the relationship between McDaniel and Tua had fundamentally changed. When reporters asked McDaniel about Tua's comments the next day, he didn't defend him. For the first time, McDaniel publicly disagreed with his quarterback.
We've been very accountable. To me, it sounds like there was something on his mind with regard to the specific meetings with a couple individuals that he was trying to get corrected with direct communication.
That's not how a coach talks about a player he's fully committed to. That's a coach creating distance. That's a coach who's starting to question whether this guy can actually lead his team. Remember, this is the same Mike McDaniel who used to tell critics to F off when they questioned Tua. Now he's the one calling Tua's judgment into question. Tua did apologize, came out a few days later and said,
I've made a mistake and I'm owning up to that right now. I've talked to guys on the team about it, talked to the leaders about it. They know my heart. I let the emotions of the game get to me after the game. And, that's something that I can learn from as a leader on this team. And what happens in-house should be protected. And none of that should have gotten out.
But the damage was already done. Multiple teammates declined to comment when asked about it, which tells you everything you need to know about how that went over in the locker room. Then came the bombshell that really shook this franchise. On October 31st, right after the Dolphins got destroyed by the Ravens 28-6 on Thursday Night Football, Stephen Ross would pull the trigger. He fired their general manager, Chris Grier. Grier had been with the organization for 26 years. He'd been the GM since 2016. This was the guy who drafted Tua, who traded for Tyreek Hill, who built this entire roster. Gone. Reports came out that Grier wanted to tear down the roster and rebuild, but Ross wasn't interested in tanking. He wanted to keep trying to win. Here's the interesting part though. McDaniel kept his job. Despite the 2-7 start, despite being the betting favorite to be the next head coach fired, Ross reportedly still believes in McDaniel and wants him to be the coach moving forward, which means if anyone's getting blamed for this disaster, it's gonna be Tua. Now, in fairness, after hitting rock bottom at 2-7, the Dolphins actually did turn things around for a bit. They went on a 4-game winning streak. They beat the Bills in a shocking blowout, the Saints, the Jets, even Washington in that crazy game in Madrid. Suddenly, they were 6-7, and technically still in the playoff hunt. Devon Achane was running wild. The defense was making plays. It looked like maybe, just maybe, this team could salvage something. But then came Monday Night Football against the Steelers, a must-win game in cold weather. And Tua threw for 253 yards and 2 touchdowns. But here's the thing, most of that came in garbage time when the Dolphins were already down 28-3. When the game was actually competitive, Tua was terrible. On 7 third-down dropbacks, he completed just 2 passes. He got sacked 3 times and scrambled once for a single yard. And here's the stat that really puts it into perspective. Tua is now 0-6 in his career in games where the temperature is 40 degrees or below at kickoff. The Dolphins as a franchise have lost 14 straight games in that kind of weather. This is a fundamental problem that McDaniel and the Dolphins can't seem to solve. When the conditions get tough, Tua can't get it done, which brings us up to that post-game press conference after the Steelers loss, the one where Mike McDaniel said this.
The quarterback play last night was not good enough.
Reporters then asked if he would consider benching Tua for Zach Wilson or rookie Quinn Ewers, and he said this.
Yeah, I think it would be very rash and short-sighted.
That's not a no, and that's not a Tua is my guy no matter what. That's a coach.
And as we know, Tua sadly got benched. But for my guy Quinn Ewers out of Texas, the 7th round pick. So y'all let us know, or let me know how you feel about the situation. Has Tua been done wrong? Has he been getting enough credit? Even though he's getting benched, they're going to be having a cap hit from Tua's contract for the next 3 years. I think it goes from like $50 million to $53 million. Then it goes like $65 million. Then comes back to $54 million. So there's a lot of money that Tua is guaranteed. Make sure y'all go watch the full video of Microphone. But crazy situation over there for them Dolphins, man.